Alright guys, so the other day I was one of the first independent commentators, probably one of the first commentators with a decent following in general really, to cover this bombshell story about how the Minneapolis Public School Teacher Union decided to include language in their union contract that calls for white teachers to be laid off first in case of the schools having a surplus of teachers and needing to lay off teachers. And they wanted to do this in order to prevent losing teachers of color because there's not enough teachers of color to represent the race of the students in school. Right now, again, I talked about this story at the time, and honestly, I was afraid to really talk about it because it was so unbelievable, so blatantly racist, right? You're gonna lay people off, you're gonna fire people based off skin color, right? It was so unbelievable. I honestly didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if it was true. I was like, I hope this is true, right? Because sometimes you do get stories that are so unbelievable, right? You don't know if it's true or not, and then it turns out that, yeah, it was too unbelievable to actually be true. This is not the case. This story is 100% true, and after I covered this story, it blew up, right? It blew up. Mainstream media started covering it. Everybody's talking about this story now, and that brings me to this insane interview right here. I mean, just to be honest with you, they're not very bright, right? They're not very bright individuals, okay? I got questions about how they ended up in this leadership position because they are the leaders of the Minneapolis Teachers Union. And they are not just going to defend this policy, but they're also going to say that they're proud of this policy and that it does not go far enough, right? They're saying that there's not enough racism. We actually need more racism. And I really want to talk about this because what is going on here is deeper than what the mainstream liberal media is going to cover, especially when it comes to this chick right here, who is the actual president of the teachers union. She's the vice president. This woman right here is experiencing a classic problem that we see of white guilt, okay? She is experiencing a classic case, a severe case really, of white guilt in the sense that she feels pressure to prove that she's not a racist. And that is why she's doubling down on this policy that is racist, right? She's fighting racism with more racism because she doesn't want to be called a racist. And I'm going to prove it here in a little bit, but after we actually get into this interview. So without further ado, I don't want to make this video too long. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
Welcome back to GMA3. Just ahead of the new school year, a heated debate over a new teacher layoff policy in Minneapolis Public Schools. The policy stipulates that schools will prioritize the retention of teachers of color over seniority in the event of a layoff. The provision was negotiated with the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers, and joining us now for this GMA3 exclusive is the president of the MFT, Greta Callahan, and Vice President Marcia Howard. They both join me from Minneapolis. Welcome. We appreciate your time here. And I'm going to start with you, Greta, because this change was taking away the departure from the traditional last in, first off layoff policy. That was what was in place. Now, Minnesota Public Schools defending the policy, the new change, saying in part to ABC News that this provision is, quote, to remedy the continuing effects of past discrimination. Can you explain further why both the school district and the teachers union felt that this was an important and necessary change?
Well, our number one priority is what's best for students, and what's best for students is having people in front of them who they can count on, who have the experiences and skills that they can also see themselves in. And so our number one priority was to ensure that our students have safe and stable schools and receive the high quality education they deserve. So this contract language was something that we are, first of all, extremely proud of for achieving, but it also doesn't go far enough. We need to support and retain our educators, especially those who are underrepresented. And this language does one tiny, minuscule step towards that, but doesn't solve the real crisis we're in right now.
Wow. Wow. Again, you guys hear the delusion here? Okay. Oh, our number one concern is making sure that kids have good quality education. Well, if that's the case, then why do you have this policy in place? Why are you even wasting time on this? Because if your concern is about having good quality education for kids, you shouldn't be concerned about the skin color of the teachers at all. What you should be concerned about is making sure that you retain the highest performing teachers. Okay? I don't even like the whole seniority thing. I agree. I don't think just because a teacher's been there for 20 years, they should just better keep their job because they've been there for 20 years. Because there's teachers that can be there for 20 years and they're halfway out the door, basically retired, and they don't really try. They're not really teaching kids. Yeah, those teachers should be let go, right? Bye-bye, go ahead and retire. We can't have you half-assed, right? So I don't agree with the seniority thing. So what you really should do is be keeping teachers and prioritizing teachers that are performing the best. The teachers that have the best performing students should be the ones that are prioritizing, and that is what you should be focusing on. But they're not focusing on that with this policy. What they're focusing on is trying to maintain as many teachers of color as possible at the expense of getting rid of teachers who may be more qualified. I mean, it's a good chance that a teacher who's been teaching longer, right, that does have some seniority, it's a good chance they're probably a pretty decent teacher, okay? They're probably okay, right? So you're getting rid of people who have more experience in the classroom, who could possibly be better teachers because you want to keep teachers of color that have less experience and that aren't as good of teachers. So I'm saying, tell me that you're thinking about putting the students and their performance and their education first, because you're not. You're putting yourself first, and I'm going to prove that here in a minute.
Marcia, this clause was created back in March after a 2-week teacher strike, and a lot of different things were. A three-week teacher strike, and so much was discovered and also determined because of that. But to that point, this was all written and agreed upon essentially 5 months ago. Why is this clause just now being discovered? Any idea on the timing of why this is all coming out now?
I think the timing is very suspect. This is the language that we were put in, that we went out and marched for. We voted on this. The district and the union agreed upon this, and now it's coming out because some third-rate, off-brand Breitbart Minnesotan website decided to put it out there, and the MAGA media picked it up, and they were waiting for mainstream media to run with this story.
Third-rate Breitbart media outlet. I guess she's talking about, people like me, right? She said MAGA media. I guess she's talking about me and Derek as well, too. I guess I'm part of the MAGA media, which, hey, maybe I should change the name of my channel to the MAGA Perspective, right? MAGA Media channel. I kind of take that as a compliment. But again, you see how these people do. You see how they try to dismiss the story, right, as, well, this is just something from the right-wing news media, as if it's not legitimate. But it turns out that this story that came from the right-wing news media, like me, it seems like it's actually true, right? Like, a lot of stories are true that we put out there, but they don't want to acknowledge, right? But, for whatever reason, mainstream liberal media decided to actually pick up on this one because there's a lot of people that are actually outraged by this. People, and rightfully so. When you have an overt case of discrimination, of racism, I think it's important to stand up against it the same way you would stand up against it if the language of this contract said that you had to fire black teachers first. There would be a zero tolerance for that. So you should have zero tolerance for this when you're talking about firing white teachers first. Again, these people who claim to be race crusaders, they're the biggest racists on the planet. They're all about themselves. They're all about special rights and privileges. They don't want equal rights. They want special rights. And it shows up almost every single day.
It's a non-story. It was language about the event of a layoff, and we are nowhere near having layoffs this year.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're near having layoffs. It's not about that. It's about the principle. It's about the fact that if/when you're put in a situation where you do have to lay off teachers, you're going to be laying them off based off skin color and not based off merit or seniority, which I think merit should be what you actually do. But I'm just saying, that doesn't matter whether or not they're actually doing layoffs right now. You nip it in the bud before you get to the point where people lose their jobs simply because of their skin color.
We're down like 250 teachers. We're down. There are no layoffs. No. So I ask y'all why.
Yeah, no, we have been.
They're laughing at this And they're trying to dismiss it as, well, this is not a big deal. What are you guys talking about? It's not a big deal that we're being racist. It's not a big deal. You're overblowing this. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. Incredible stuff.
Reporting on and talking about a teacher shortage. So, that is obviously not any concern right now in these times coming out of this pandemic. And I want to follow up, Greta, because you mentioned the discrepancy in representation. The numbers are undeniable. The school district reports 65% of students in the past year are people of color, while just 30% of the teaching staff are people of color. So obviously the intent is to reconcile those numbers. But critics are saying it's discrimination, it's unconstitutional. Are you concerned? This doesn't go in effect until spring of 2023. How concerned are you that litigation may undo what you all have decided?
Our concern is what's best for students. And right now, we have kids who are sitting in lunchrooms being supervised because they don't have enough teachers in front of them to teach them. Our concern is about what's best for them, and that's why we went on strike for recruitment and retention of educators who represent our students, and smaller class sizes and more mental health supports and higher pay, because those are the things that are going to ensure that our students have the education that they deserve, and right now they are not receiving that. So no, that is not one of my concerns at all whatsoever, and we welcome any challenge to it.
All right,
Wow. Wow. She's so stern, right? She's standing up. I'm not worried about this being unconstitutional. I'm not worried about the overt racism here, because I'm trying to save my job. It's all about me, okay? Which is exactly what's happening here, which brings me to this article that I want to read a little bit of real quick and then get back into the video, because this is going to prove my point. This woman is experiencing what we call white guilt, okay? Because the BIPOC caucus within the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers actually called out this woman, the president of the Minneapolis Teachers Union, Greta Callahan. They actually called her a racist, right? They said that because she was not addressing the real systemic issues with how teachers of color are treated. Mainly, they still weren't satisfied with the fact that they were laying off teachers by seniority instead of skin color, aka they were mad because she was not being racist. So they call her racist for not being racist, basically. And they filed a grievance that basically cited cruelties, which set a, quote, precedent that racism and white supremacy can exist and persist in our union, right? So they basically call her a white supremacist. That is why she's now in this interview stomping with Soul Sister number one here over this overtly racist policy that she knows in her mind that this is not right. But again, she's facing pressure from the wokes in the teachers union because she's not being racist enough. They're saying that she's racist for not being racist. God, man, you can't make this stuff up, bruh. You can't make this stuff up. When you think it's crazy, it gets crazier with these woke people, bruh. I'm telling you.
That is a very strong statement, Marcia. You're a teacher, you're an educator. What do you say to the critics who say this treats those long-time, more senior teachers unfairly?
I've been teaching for about 24 years, and I started in a school that was over 60% black, and for many, many of my students, I am the only educator that they had in 12 years that looked like me.
Who cares? Who cares? Seriously, what does that have to do with kids learning? I don't care about what your race is. I don't care about what your skin color is. If the teachers are 100% white, I don't care. If they're 100% black, I don't care. If they're 100% Asian or Hispanic, I don't care. If those are the best teachers, if they're the most qualified and best teachers, I don't care, okay? And you shouldn't care, because what matters is the quality of the teachers, not their skin color. And that's the problem with these people, man. They're putting their toxic racist ideology over the well-being of these students, and they turn around and talk about, well, we're trying to look out for the students. No, you're not. You're looking out for yourself. What does the skin color of the teachers have to do with the quality of teacher that they are. Yes, I know there's studies out there that show that, you know, if the teacher is the same skin color, but I don't care. I don't care. A teacher and the quality of her teaching, in my opinion, has nothing to do with her skin color. Doesn't matter if she's black, doesn't matter if she's white, doesn't matter what she is. If she can teach, if she's a good teacher, she can relate to students. If she's doing her job, then she's doing her job. I don't care about all the other stuff. It doesn't matter if the only teacher that they saw that's black was you in 12 years. I don't care about that. It doesn't matter. Did they get a good quality education? Right? Did they graduate high school? Are they in college? How well did they do in life? How well did they do in school? Did they pass the test? That's what matters. But again, this is not what these people are focused on. They don't care about that. They don't care about that.
And here it is, 24 years later, and that's still the same case in a lot of schools. This is a non-issue. It really, really is.
No, what you're talking about in regards to the racial makeup of teachers is a non-issue. Except unless you're racist, right? Then it's an issue, right? Sounds to me, only a white supremacist would be concerned about what race of teacher is teaching my kids. Is there a black teacher teaching my kids? I got a problem with that. I don't care how good of a teacher she is. She's black. And I can't have a black teacher teaching my kids. Again, if a white person said that, you'd be saying they're a white supremacist. But because it's the reverse, oh, there's too many whites teaching the blacks. There's a problem here. That's called social justice, right? That's social justice. Again, somebody make it make sense, man. Somebody make it make sense. And the funny part about this is that if you fire teachers or lay off teachers based off merit, then the race problem solves itself. You know why? Because if you have to lay off teachers, and if what you say is true, what I think what they're saying is that, well, it's better for students of color to have teachers of color, you know, teachers that look like them because they can relate more to the teacher and blah, 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 blah. Okay, if that's true, if that actually does affect the quality of learning for a student, race, right? Which again, you know, to me seems like a racist ideology. But if it's true, then the white teachers, by definition, should be performing at a lower level, right? They should not be performing as well, generally, on average, compared to the so-called teachers of color, right? Again, they don't believe the things that they claim they believe because they believe that they would have no problem with everything being based off merit. But because she probably knows in her head that she's not a great quality teacher, she's afraid to lose her job, right? She wants to basically make it impossible for her to lose her job. We need to recruit more teachers of color by basically making it impossible to fire them, right? And again, this woman over here is trying to save her job because she knows that people like her are coming after her, right? Again, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here behind the scenes. It really is.
But the part that is the issue is that our students deserve to have intellectualism and academia be represented by people that are underrepresented, African Americans, indigenous folks, people of color.
Okay, if they deserve those positions, they should get those positions. If they don't deserve those positions, they're not qualified, then they should get those positions. It's really that simple. You don't just put people in positions based off their skin color, regardless of whether or not they're qualified, because you just need to have a black face or a brown face or an Asian face, or whatever. You just need to have those faces there. That's silly. That's silly.
They need to, and in order for us to get a foothold, we needed to put something in place to recruit and retain them. Because frankly, in this district, they're not paying us enough. So if you have all the skills to be a teacher in Minneapolis, you would go somewhere else. They're not funding education in Minneapolis the way that they need to. And folks need to come off some money. Billionaires need to start giving what they're supposed to be giving.
Here we go. And the Marxist ideology, it's the billionaires. The billionaires need to pay up so that we can fund our bloated, bureaucratic, racist teachers union, right? That is what she's saying. That is what she's saying.
To this state in order to fund education so that we can get some parity, so that we can actually attract people to this profession again.
And if I could just jump in, this language that's so controversial actually doesn't achieve that. This language, we've only had 15 In 15 years, 48 teachers of color have been laid off in our district. In the last 2 years, over 200 teachers of color have left our district by choice. That is the crisis. And this proposal that's so controversial, we had more language in there. It doesn't go far enough to have mentors for educators of color, to have a support council for educators of color. Those are the things, in addition to more pay and better working conditions, that are going to retain and support educators. And so we need to continue to take this further.
Just remember, this same person right beside you probably called you a white supremacist, right behind closed doors. Just remember that while you're talking about how much help the teachers of color need. Because again, if it came down to it, they would get rid of you in a heartbeat. They're probably going to go as far as to say, you're white, you're the leader of this teachers union, therefore we can't have you be the leader here because of your skin color, right? We got to go even further, right? I'm telling you, she's walking into a trap. She's walking to a trap. She's walking to a battle that she can't win with people that she can't please. This is why she feels the need to try so hard, okay? And it's really a shame. Because at the end of the day, what she's promoting here, she knows is wrong. Okay, they both know is wrong. And it's a shame. It's a shame they sat on TV and really told people they're proud of this. We're proud of, discriminating against teachers based off their skin color, right? We're progressive, okay? When, again, the reality is these people are regressing us right back to Jim Crow, right? They're regressing us right back to where we fought so hard to leave, okay? Again, it really blows my mind, man. Some of the things going on in this country, and all the backlash is well deserved. It really is. It really is. We can't stand for this type of stuff, bro. If we're really trying to move past racism in this country, we have to address all forms of it, okay? Especially when it's overt like this. Not just racism that's perceived to be against black people. It has to be racism against everybody. And until they start actually dealing with racism against everybody, then I can't take these people serious. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective.